I think what we're excited about in the beauty space specifically is the notion of the changing face of what beauty is today. So for us at Refinery, we're really about individuality, inclusion, diversity, self-expression. And, I think the standard of what beauty advertising and content used to be was a lot of white, beautiful, blonde women. And now the consumer and the audience is demanding to see different women in advertising, marketing, and media.
The hurdles to launching a brand have come down, and that has done something amazing is we've met so many brand founders that were able to launch brands, small guys that were literally starting their, in the backyard, in their kitchen, and launching brands. What we're trying to do is give a platform to those smaller brands that have amazing stories, that, don't have the capital yet, don't have, the exposure yet to go direct to consumer, in a big way. We're trying to give them a platform to, tell the story, present their product, and present the brand.
If we think about even like the whole concept of direct to consumer, like essentially it's a Tupperware party, right? So it's, these everything's cyclical, and so what's going to come back and what's going to be next, if we, we probably should just look to what was after the Tupperware party. It'll all come back around. I don't believe retail is dead, even though there's direct to consumer. I do think it's fascinating because at the end of the day, it puts all the power in the people, and we were talking before, I do think the next big disruptor is how are people going to react to how the product is made. And that's happened, and it's a slow buzz. But with brands like Credo and other coming out, what's going to be the next big push that people really dissect what's in their product, and how does that affect all of us? And it's a little scary and exciting, maybe more scary.
And so when I think about what makes a brand really successful, it's absolutely about how do I work with influencers? How do I get more content about myself online? How do I represent myself authentically? How do I tell the story correctly? But the other half of it is the product side. I think people don't talk about that enough. I think product innovation and product quality is actually an area that a lot of brands underinvest in. So that's the way I think about it.
I think it's how do we take technologies that are outside of beauty and bring them in. So I think of like Siri and Alexa, and how amazing would like the retail experience be because no one can afford to have people in their stores anymore, and so you can't find help, and yet we really want retail to work. So if I just sort of asked Alexa about my CC cream and what's the ingredients in it, and she could tell me, and then I could say, how do I apply this? What's a good product to use with it? And just that I could have all that information at my fingertips, and she'd know a lot more than the person who's going to work in the store, because she knows everything.
I think to Allison's point, where things can get really interesting is on the data side. You're getting more and more data points about every single one of these consumers and what their preferences are and who they're similar to. And I think on the retailer side, it'd be really interesting to start leveraging those in a more interesting way. To say, okay, I know every product that you've bought in the last 10 years, what worked, what didn't, who you're similar to, what kind of characteristics you filled out, and then to use that not only on the product innovation side, but also on the product matching side, I think could be really interesting.
If you think about Amazon, what Amazon does better than anybody else is it fulfills demand, right? If you know you want something, it's easy to get it. So what the physical shopping experience has to be, it has to be demand generation experience, right? It's just sort of the way I explain it is, you're not going to go to a movie theater that has a bad screen, bad sound, bad food, bad seats, bad bathrooms. You want to go to a place that's going to be better than you watching the TV, your flat screen TV with in your home. So Bass Pro Shops, Sephora, places like that, offering, it's not technology, but some are powered by technology, but experiences that make you get more interested in whatever the thing is. So I think that's important.
I think at least from a marketing and branding perspective, it's really, I think, more about having people who understand the power of the consumer, less about the power of the product. Because the more that we can bring on marketers and advertising and digital-led employees into maybe more legacy traditional beauty companies, the more you're going to see innovation from the way that you're engaging the consumer.
So I think one of the things that we're experiencing right now is a big change in the team structure, within the kind of marketing team structure. And this is really what we built the premise of our company on, which was, historically you've had 10 different editors that mattered, or 8 to 10, like Glamour and Vogue, etc. And now, because it's so much easier to publish content, you don't have 10 editors, you have 10,000 editors. And they're consumers, and they're influencers, and they're retailers who have these really large audiences where they're creating content that now often has a much bigger impact than any traditional publisher would have had historically. And so, what does that require? Like, if you're going from 10 publishers to 10,000 publishers that you're managing relationships with, that takes headcount, that takes people. And so I think what we're starting to see, and obviously we're from a biased perspective, but more and more of these positions come through that are called like influencer manager, influencer relationships, influencer whatever, that are really focused on how do I work with these people, how do I learn from them, how do I make sure that they understand my product and my positioning, etc.
Honestly, the biggest thing that I need for me is this influencer marketing thing. And because it's a new thing, everyone's super young, and it's very difficult because you can have someone who's a complete expert and knows every single influencer, but like many of the influencers, should they just sit behind the computer and watch them and not have the social skills to be able to interact? I also think content developers. So obviously Refinery 29 saying, I'm like amazed, 300 pieces of content a day. I'm like, we have a video department, we have our own studio. I'm so proud of us. But this is a team we never had before, that we have a whole video team and editors in-house and things like that. And that really is such an amazing skill to have. And if you think about, like, everyone's a content producer, so you have to be that. I do think there is this need, as we're gonna have so much more data. We don't get it from the retailers as brands, and that's always been a frustration. But as the e-commerce business grows and we have access and people are sharing more about themselves, how do you analyze that data so you can use it, as you were talking about, use it more efficiently?